show you a simple example. Suppose there is a page, demo page, some HTML page. Roughly, I'm showing you that point actually. So here I have a simple where suppose table, and that is table is equal to document dot create element. I am creating an element called table dynamical. Now for where item, where property in table, for where property in table, we are reading the properties and printing the property document dot write property. So we are reading every property and printing it. I will save this. Let's open. I written a simple program to print all the properties of a table. You can see we are printing the properties of a table. And these are all the properties of a table. You see so many properties are there for table. These are all the properties for table. Now in these properties, I will use Control F. Control F. Here in the properties, I am searching for call span. You see directly call span is not there. Some area call span is there. So there is no call span directly. So I have some row span. Row span is also not there directly. I am using options like border. Border is there. Frame is there. Rules are there. Directly these options are available, but there is no option like a call span. Call span. Now important is there is a so many are like that, not only table, so many HTML elements is equal to new image, and I am reading the properties of that pic, and you can see these are all the properties of image. Here I am searching for a border. You have border. I am searching for SRC. We have SRC. I am searching for class. You can see it is having class name. Yesterday I told you. That means it doesn't have class and it is class name. That means sometimes the properties are not there and sometimes the properties are there with a different name. Then if a property is not available and you want to apply, then what you can do is, then you can go with attribute binding. Attribute binding. That is important. That means every HTML attribute doesn't have a relative HTML attribute doesn't have a relative property actually. Relative property. So every HTML element doesn't have a relative property. That is important, right? So that means relative property. So attribute doesn't have a relative property. Then in that case, both are same. Anything is same. That means property is not having an attribute. Attribute is not having a property. So that means attribute is call span, but it is not available as a property. Some properties are available which are not defined as attribute. Both are same. So that means some properties are additionally used. The property attribute name is changed. That means we can say in another way, like property name can be different from attribute name. Property name can be different from attribute name. So then in that case, what we have to do is, so what is the solution for this? What is solution for this is better use attribute binding. Better use attribute binding. So what is attribute binding? Attribute binding is nothing but Angular allows to configure attributes for HTML element. Attributes for HTML element dynamically. Angular allowed to configure attributes for HTML element dynamically by marking them with the prefix as attr, by marking them as prefix as attr. That means now what you can do is, you can see, you can observe here. So I will use a small point to make you understand here. I'm using here public and merge count. Merge count is equal to 2. Okay. And I am writing here a table. I'm designing a table. In the table, we have T head. In that, we have TH. So in the T body and T row, in that one cell, first name and another cell, so last name, something like this. In the T head, you have defined as some student name, okay, like this. And I will save this, and the table have a border as 1, okay. Now you can see here, so there is a table here. In the table, I want the first table header to merge 2 cells. I want it to merge 2 cells. That means column span. Here merge count is present. And it is having a value. I have to attach this to table. Here I am using in the square base. So call span is equal to, here I am binding merge count. Immediately you see an error here. Error is saying that call span cannot bind to call span since it is not a known property of TH. It is saying that TH cannot understand call span, but actually call span is there, we use generally. That means it says that means HTML attribute call span is there, but it is saying that I don't find any property by that name. That means because Angular is not having all the HTML library, because the problem is HTML tags and elements are browser dependent. For few browsers, some elements will work. For few browsers, some elements will not work. Because elements have browser dependency issues. That's the reason all element related, all properties are not configured in Angular. It cannot handle that. In that case,